secret identity of a top US spy in Pakistan has been released, with authorities claiming the agent is responsible for the continuation of US drone strikes in the country. Former Pakistani cricketer turned politician Imran Khan is said to be behind the publication, escalating tensions between the two nations to a new high.
It all started with this, another deadly drone strike on Pakistani soil last week. People here responding with outrage, first blocking the vital NATO supply route into Afghanistan, and today, this, a court paper publicly naming the man they say runs the CIA here, accusing him of committing murder and waging war against Pakistan. Even though it's now public, ABC is choosing to not broadcast his name. Today, neither the CIA nor the State Department would comment.
As you know, we, as a standard process, don't speak to them.
This is the man behind today's public outing, Imran Khan, a cricket star turned politician with millions of supporters.
We're with ABC News, just one question.
Earlier this year, he threatened to do whatever he could to bring drone strikes to an end.
All it does is it causes collateral damage, it causes anti-US, and guess who gains? The militants.
But tonight, by revealing a name that's supposed to be top secret, it just got harder to tell America's friends from its enemies.
Well, there is no more important or powerful entity in Pakistan than the military. The army has ruled the nation for at least half of its 66-year history, with generals quick to seize power from weak or corrupt civilian regimes. The current Prime Minister, Nawaz Sharif, himself was toppled from office in the past by former military dictator Pervez Musharraf. Now back in power, Sharif has appointed a new head of military, a man with the same name but no relation, General Raheel Sharif. In recent times, under the previous military chief, the army has stayed out of politics, but is that enough to say that there has been a shift in the country? Earlier I spoke to South Asian security expert Dr Ahustosh Misra from Griffith University. Ahustosh Misra, thank you so much for joining us here on Newsnight. Why has General Sharif been chosen to head the Pakistani military?
What I have gathered from various press reports is that he's a very straight-talking person, highly professional, and most importantly, he's an apolitical person, something which is music to Nawaz Sharif's ears, and also that General Sharif is having in common with his predecessor, General Kayani, who was also very apolitical in his approach in running the army. So his apolitical approach in running the army has been the key in getting in this coveted position. Plus, he comes with a vast experience of dealing with the evaluation of Pakistan's military doctrines, war strategies, and development of curriculum for training courses for the recruits at the Pakistan Military Academy. And why I'm saying that is because in 2007, along with General Kayani, he was instrumental in bringing about a shift in Pakistan military approach and military strategies, which thereon started focusing on the internal threats. The internal threats from the jihadi groups, from the Taliban, were seen as the most serious threats facing Pakistan rather than the eternal Indian threat. So he was instrumental in bringing about that kind of paradigm shift in Pakistan military doctrines and war strategies. So,
if I could just come in there, though, is one of the reasons that he's been selected is that he is not a threat to the Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif, who has had his problems with the military in the past.
Absolutely, that could be one of the reasons. And as I said, since he is seen as a very apolitical person, like General Kayani, that was something which was appealed to Nawaz Sharif, the Prime Minister who had burnt his fingers more than that in 1999 when he was overthrown by General Musharraf. So I think his apolitical approach has been the key. Apart from that, what I've also gathered is that there's one general, retired General Baloch, who is in Nawaz Sharif's cabinet. He was superior of General Sharif, and he has also put in a quiet word with Nawaz Sharif about his credentials, his credibility, and his bona fide. And plus, I've also gathered that General Sharif also had some acquaintance with Nawaz Sharif in the past. And so all that combined, all these factors, have been, responsible for getting him this coveted position.
Is there still a concern, though, that the Pakistan military can't be trusted? That this is an organisation that has carried out coups in the past, it has ousted civilian governments, it's controlled Pakistan for at least half of its entire history. What is to say that it has changed?
I think that is something which will always be there in Pakistan. But what we have to ensure is that military coups don't occur in a vacuum. There have to be conditions created in which a military coup can occur. Those conditions can come in the form of absolute failure of the civilian regimes in dealing with the economic situation, the political situation. There could be, widespread political instability. There could be widespread corruption. Plus, when the civilian regimes begin to meddle in military affairs, in appointments, in slashing funding, in ensuring how the military should act, and when the civilian regimes also start running their foreign policy in a more autonomous manner towards India, towards Afghanistan, towards the United States, now then the alarm bells begin to ring in general headquarters in Rawalpindi. So as long as these conditions are not created, I don't think there's any imminent threat at the moment to Nawaz Sharif from the military. And plus, military also is content staying in the barracks because of the economic difficulties which are rising in Pakistan, the kind of challenges Pakistan is facing. Military doesn't want to come at the forefront and deal with these enormous challenges and again lose credibility. So they are very happy sitting in the barracks and allowing the civilian regime to handle all these tricky issues.
Now, General Kiani, the former head of the military, really went out of his way to depoliticise the organisation. He wasn't interested in power. Why did he drive that? Did that come directly from him?
To some extent, yes, it did. As I said, both General Sharif and General Kiani, they were responsible for bringing about this shift in Pakistan military strategies and doctrine. And most importantly, in 2008, when Musharraf was leaving power, he had handpicked General Kiani as the chief of ISI and made him the chief of army staff. And thinking that because he has done that, General Kiani will also play a tune with General Musharraf's own schema, political schema, but that didn't happen. Instead, what General Kiani did was that he distanced himself completely from Musharraf. He distanced himself completely from politics. He started recalling all the military personnel who were on secondment in government offices, on non-military postings, to bring them back into the military fold and focus on the threats which Pakistan was facing that were internal in nature, threat from the Taliban and the jihadi groups. He knew that was the task of the military. They have been trained to do that, and it was absolutely critical for him to get the old synergies running. And mind you, when he took over as army chief in 2008, General Kiani, that is, he had inherited a highly demoralized force. He took over in the wake of surrender of the Pakistani army in hundreds to the Taliban. So he had inherited a highly demoralized force. But when he took over, he got the synergies running within the Pakistani army. He dealt the SWAT operation, the Rahe Najat and Rahe Rast, with full force. They were able to repulse Taliban out of Swat, Bunair and other areas. So that was extremely important. That was a very professional approach shown by General Kiani, and his entire apolitical approach to distance from politics is something which has been running ever since in the Pakistani military.
Is that the biggest threat facing the military still? The militia, the insurgents, the Islamic groups that have been fighting the Pakistan army now for some years inside the country?
See, if you talk about what the threats, security that Pakistan confronts, then there are naturally the top threats, the threat internally which are there for Pakistan from
Even bigger than the threat from India?
No, from India, interestingly, as I said, from 2007 onwards, this shift in the military strategy and doctrine at the general headquarters, now that doctrine started believing in that the real threats come to Pakistan internally and not from India. That was something that the India bogey was created by the military to keep themselves in the mainstream. But from 2007 on, they were having a very realistic assessment, an honest assessment, I should say, of what is in the interest of Pakistani military, what are the key challenges that Pakistan confronts, and all this indicated and focused on internal threats which were there. So as a result, they started focusing internally. So in India bogey, the Indian threat was put to the sideline, and so that's why we started seeing that Pakistan military was more and more internally focused.
How much of a rift are the drone attacks which have been carried out against militant targets along the Afghan-Pakistan border? How much of a rift is that causing between the US and the Pakistan military?
Immense. Let's make no mistake, immense rift it has caused. But as I said, United States has its own interest. He knows that there are groups in Pakistan which are hand in glove with the ISI, which are hand in glove with some segments of the Pakistani military, and hence they are not acting against them. And Pakistan and United States, as the deadline of 2014 is approaching, is acting against all these groups. They have eliminated most of the sons of Jalaluddin Haqqani. Only Sirajuddin Haqqani is left there. They have eliminated Hakimullah Masood. Recently in September, they have eliminated one Afghan cleric, along with 6 others. So United States is going ahead with this drone program. There's no let up in that, and that is going to continue for some time, and that is going to create a lot of problems. And it has already in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, where the current coalition also has Imran Khan. They were recently, just a couple of days ago, they were there blocking all the trucks and supplies going to the NATO forces in Afghanistan, and they had blocked the entire cavalcade of the supplies which was going over there. So you see these internal conflicts which are sort of coming to the fore. The Khyber Pakhtunkhwa government is not playing ball with Pakistan's engagement. With the United States, they are saying drone is the sole cause of Pakistan's misery, terrorism in Pakistan. So there are these different dissenting approaches and voices which we see in the political spectrum in Pakistan, and this is only going to accentuate further after 2014. And there we are going to see that Pakistan, the civilian regime under Nawaz Sharif, is going to find it very difficult to balance how to keep the interest of the military intact, at the same time also push with the peace process which they want to, at the same time also convince United States that why they are not being able to move against the Haqqani network. So this kind of a balance is going to pose a serious challenge for Nawaz Sharif. How he is able to do that, only time will tell. But these are some very tricky challenges for Nawaz Sharif in the future to deal with.
Can it be said quite simply that there cannot be security and peace in Afghanistan without a strong and unified Pakistan military?
No, see, the thing is that you don't want a Pakistani military to be in shambles. It is the most disciplined and the only professional institution in Pakistan. And the kind of challenges that Pakistan faces, the kind of challenges which are there in Afghanistan, the role of the military is extremely important. For that, we want a unified, strong, professional, apolitical military in Pakistan. And for the future of Afghanistan, I think the role of the military will be extremely important. And apart from that, we know that the Pakistani military traditionally has controlled Pakistan foreign policy with regards to Afghanistan, with regards to Kashmir, with the control of the nuclear weapons, with the policies towards the United States. So Pakistan military has a good control over these aspects. So in the years to come, these dimensions of Pakistan foreign policy will remain virulent, and that is where I think the role of the military will remain integral to ensure stability not only in Pakistan but also in the neighborhood and Afghanistan, also in relation with India and United States.
Dr. Misra, again, thank you so much.
Pleasure. Thank you very much.
The tug of war